Hello, everyone, and welcome to VEX Warfield. I am VEX, your host. And tonight, I'm going live because I'm doing a birthday stream. Did it last year, so thought I'd keep it going. And like last year, I went ahead and opened up the panel. Now, granted, I'm not paying for the StreamYard service, so it's a limited amount of people. And I gotta adjust the volume on this. I'm limited to, I believe, 6. I haven't done this in a while, so I kind of forgot. It happens. Let me spread this link around a little bit. Happy birthday to me. Okay. Well, I haven't really decided if we're just gonna leave it kind of an open flow as far as what we're basically bitching and complaining about, stuff going on in the world today. I guess you never know what can happen. Give me just a moment. Copy. And paste. Because we love the copy and paste. Hey, God's Night, good to see you. Hey, Rebel Jack, good to see you. Nancy from St. Louis, good to see you. Thank you very much. Give me just a few minutes. I'm spreading this link around so that, well, see if anybody wants to join us in here, As you can tell, the music in the background right now is the powerful. I don't want to say it the wrong way. PowerThoughts Meditation Club. It's 528 hertz, whole body regeneration, full body healing, emotional and physical healing. You'll notice that I have the links to it in the description, so you guys can check this out for yourself. It is great to listen to, and if nothing else than in the background. Hey, Common Sense, Common Law. Good to see you too. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, where else am I throwing this link? Here we go. Yeah, we just put it everywhere. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Rinse, repeat. Now, like I said, well, Rebel, I guess you're already in here, so I don't have to post it in your Discord. Yeah, what the heck, I'll do it anyway. Just cuz. Alright. A few more moments and then I'll kick out the link for the StreamYard, and you guys can go ahead and hop on up here and we'll get this cyber party going. Maybe that wasn't a good choice of words. Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Alrighty. One more time for good measure. All right. Now we'll do this. More copy and pasting. Is this good TV or what? Almost 5 minutes in and I'm still throwing links. All right. We're going to pin that in YouTube. The YouTubies. All right. Yeah, I can't complain God's Night. I mean, I do, and I will, but I can't. Oh, crap. Hit the wrong button. There we go. And it be pinned. All right. Like I said, no actual direction, like usual. I'd like to refrain from doing a lot of cursing just because there's several viewers on here that don't really like that. And plus, I'm trying to keep myself from cursing myself. So, So if we could try and refrain from that as much as possible, that would be great. But I understand things slip out. Heck, it happened to me more than once. So there's a StreamYard link. Go ahead and click on that. Follow the directions. They're pretty simple. And you don't even have to put up your camera. You could do as I have done with just an icon picture or something. And, well, so self-filter. And we have our first victim. Guest. Cybertoxin, good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Had my cake, and I'm ready to go. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right.
Sounds still good.
Yep. How about you guys out there in chat? Are we coming in pretty clear?
I'm trying to get my headset to work. There's no sound coming through my headset.
Oh, fitness for the average Joe, David Urbina. Good to see you. Welcome. Thank you, Rebel. And we have another victim. Guest. Nancy, welcome.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good.
So we having a good day out today? Anybody have any problems? Everything go pretty smoothly, I hope?
Yeah. Except for the
pretty
stock
good
market.
day for me.
Nice. What was that, Nancy?
I said except for the stock market, but that's to be expected, right?
Oh, yeah. The stock market, I wouldn't. If you got stuff in the stock market, I don't know if I'd be keeping it there for very much longer. Go into physical assets, gold, silver, because that's where the money's going to be.
Yeah, there's tax consequences, but then I keep going back and forth because, but all the tax is supposed to go away. But what if it doesn't? And so been thinking a lot about all that.
They're not going to take their own, revenue away. I mean, that'd be like me going to work and saying, "Oh, boss, I'm working for free this week." It ain't going to happen.
Yeah, whether it goes where it's expected to or where it's feared to is kind of beside the point of what we've learned the last few years, that it's not stable.
Oh, it's absolutely unstable. It's always been unstable. The only thing that keeps it in check was the general populace themselves. Quite frankly, if we don't put any faith in, we'll just say the dollar, then it will have no value whatsoever. But as long as we put value into it, it will keep the value.
Yeah. Well, worth is only found in productivity. Values in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly.
Or maybe I have them backwards, but there's a distinction there somewhere.
No. That's exactly it. If we value a carton of eggs more than the next person, we're going to pay more for it. Supply and demand, value being made by the people who buy it. And that's the problem with the stock market is it's the people who buy it, but it's all being controlled.
Right.
Just simple things like going in going, we need to boost this, so call up all your friends and have them buy stock in it. That to me, that don't seem right. You shouldn't be able to do that. But I don't really have a great understanding of the stock market. Kind of ignored it my whole life.
Yeah, if you're living in a place that's lush or living, could there really be a famine? Or would it just be someone else's not making your food?
Well, nowadays, I mean, it might not be that the food's not being made. It's that the food's not being allowed to be transported. I mean,
Yeah.
we already know that our government has paid farmers not to grow. I mean, that's just dirty in itself. I mean, there's going to be a food shortage. It's not because, America is not producing food. It's going to be because the politicians say, stop producing food. We'll give you our, genetically modified stuff instead, and you'll love it. And we'll watch you slowly go stupid.
Yeah. Lindsey Graham was talking about cutting things off and basically spill the beans on how they deliberately cause struggle for the citizenry until the leadership is perceived as, well, whatever they want. Trying to change people's ethos through their pathos by manipulating logos.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even something as simple as using red and yellow in your logo design evidently has a psychological effect to make you hungry. So, what color is McDonald's? Yellow and red. There's certain cues that these people have been working on for the longest time. And it's been proven over this amount of time that it's correct. And they've been basically allowing everybody to be manipulated by it. If Americans were smart enough right now, we would not be going to any fast foods. We would not be going to any movie theaters. We would not be going to any of these places, these big malls. We would only go into local mom and pop type shops. And we would only be giving our money to them, because everybody would realize that the more we give to the corporations, the more they screw us over. And then the more of the, China Mart, trash stuff that we get basically shoved down our throats every day. I mean, it's all made to make us into really ignorant people who will buy anything that we're told to buy. And on, drawing a bridge to that, to the commonness of us all being dumbed down by the stuff like the trashy foods that we're having to eat, the horrible air that we're having to breathe. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm getting pretty damn tired of it. Oh, I did the first swear word.
Like drawn away of our own lusts and enticed.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's that fake it to make it culture. Well, basically, if you want a good view of what they want to turn us into, just go watch a documentary on prison life. That's what they want outside. They're turning us all into prisoners. I mean, the COVID thing was a total bust. It worked for a while because everybody was fooled and nobody, knows how to take care of themselves as far as their health goes. So it was easy to trick everybody into this massive panic that we went through. When all along, yeah, sure, it came from a lab in China, but it's still the flu. I don't know about y'all. I mean, before I got healthy, I was getting sick twice a year just from flu alone. I mean, it was normal. You sweat, you shake, and you wake up the next morning, peel your sheets off, wash them off because of all the sweat, and move on. But now, all of a sudden, it's a big deal. Now it's got a name. COVID. Ooh.
I had a really bad flu at the end of October in 2019. And that was the first time I'd been sick in about 5 years, and I haven't been sick since.
Yeah, ever since I got into basically supplementing and getting healthier, I haven't been sick at all. Welcome, common sense. We could use a lot of you.
I don't know about all that, but I figured to stop in and say happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Hello to everybody else.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well, doing well. Hey there, Nancy.
Yeah, I don't know if she heard you.
Yeah, hi, whoever that is.
You might know me. I'd guess so.
Yeah, you know him. I don't want
Well,
to
I
bust
made a-
out his name.
I think I
I
do.
made a
Did you say
short
doubt
1
my
minute.
name?
What was that, Cybertoxin?
I finally made a short on my channel, but it's unlisted right now. I was thinking about uploading it publicly on the 1st of April, but it really ties in a lot to that, I guess, imagination land we were talking about. You know, the flash and the flare and everything. Everything that I made before was like cartoonish, but this video that I just made is actually my face singing just a little piece of the song. I was wondering if you'd like to play that. I was thinking about it when you were talking about the head trips and all the things they've been selling us and the desires that they try and stimulate. They try and use it against us.
Yeah, we can play some of that. Yeah, have to do like a screen share.
I'm not set up for that.
Oh, let's see.
I dropped it into the live chat for anybody that want to see it later.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So let's see. Since you did that, I could probably go ahead and pull that up on a different page and be able to check it out that way.
I made an upload last year with this song, kind of teasing Disney because Chrissy Teigen had just been canceled by her own mob, and it's coming for them again. Everybody's been saying tax the rich, but they don't want to tax Disney all of a sudden.
Well, that's because, you know, all the corporate media is backing them and it's telling everybody, no, Disney's good. It doesn't matter what you see. Yeah. Disney's good.
They give them the feel good.
It's ridiculous. I mean, the propaganda that is just piled upon us on a daily basis is just mind-numbing. And I don't blame people for getting caught up in it. It's real easy to do. I mean, I've caught myself a few times thinking in this, well, let's just call it what it is, de facto way, where it's not of the people, it's of the corporation. And
right.
it if you don't watch out for it, it can be easy to, well, look by it and not recognize it.
Right.
Like I said, I have trouble with it.
If your head's not filled with knowledge, it could be feelings there instead. A tragic thing indeed for one to live with heart in head.
There you go.
You know what really blew my mind about all that with Disney was when they kind of first came out, or I guess the what's the proper word? chief contract administrator, something along those lines, for Florida, said that Disney was going to lose their right to self-govern.
Yeah, I heard that.
And I sat there for a second and go, wow, I thought that was something reserved for the people, not corporations.
Yeah, companies, well, I guess they do in a way self-govern. I mean, think about it. I mean, they're insular. You can't go in off the street and tell Walmart what to do. You can't go in off the street and tell Disney what to do. I guess in a sense they are self-governing. It's just that it's a corporation. Hey, much like the United States is, and all our states individually.
But it seemed to me like quite the power flex to tell Disney the right to self-govern has been revoked. It makes you really sit there and scratch your head seeing what's going on here.
Well, yeah. How did they get it in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Well, then who clearly has the more authority to tell somebody they can't self-govern, or tell an entity that they can't self-govern?
Well, that's a good question.
That's quite a powerful thing.
Yeah, that's a real good question. How did they get it in the first place? Well, who's above who? Where's the structure of this?
It's been over 50 years since they had those exclusive rights, that kind of autonomy. Over 50 years. And that's not when Disney started.
Yeah.
But that's when they started something.
Yeah, I'm not very well versed in the history of Disney because, quite frankly, I found a lot of their movies and stuff like that irritating. But that's just personal. Mostly whenever
you don't want to build a snowman? Sorry.
Let's just say that whenever Disney started coming out and getting popular with movies and stuff like that, I was a little bit older and kind of was just like, I'm not watching those baby things.
But I took a lot of the flair out of my videos. This is the 13th one. The first one that isn't cartoonish and that isn't just overfilled with that superficial emotion that they like to use. There's a lot of sense behind the logic in my uploads, but it's purposefully covered up with a whole bunch of trash so that people will start to recognize how to remove it or look past it. And this one is kind of touching on more realistic imagery, but so that people don't forget where they are and where they're actually watching this. I used one of YouTube's dance party filters. It worked out pretty well.
Well, let's go ahead and check this out real quick. So if you guys would do me a favor and go ahead and mute yourselves while this is playing so that we don't get any echoing or feedback, I would appreciate that. Yeah, as you can see on the screen, it only goes for about 51 seconds, so it won't be too long. Here we go. I do like those filters, though.
Made a wish to be a star. Trade all this for who you are. Every time your heart's desire lies to you.
Nice. Nicely done. I was actually expecting a gravelly voice, but that works good too. All right.
He's like, hey, come here. I want to tell you something. Bam! Is there a breach in your hull? My last upload was on April 15th. That was also the day the Titanic sank.
Was it April 15th?
Coincidentally, that was also the weekend that Elon Musk was putting his money into Twitter.
Yeah, coincidence.
It's just a fun coincidence, you know.
Yeah, that seems kind of fun.
Man. It's kind of like fairy tales. Just like fairy tales, I don't believe in coincidences. I mean,
yeah, but they're fun.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
He was playing around with them, sending them some tweets. Love me tender, and tender is the night.
I see that. I think it's slightly brilliant what he's done. You know, he's got so much invested in cryptos. All he has to do is tweet out something about cryptos, and up goes the value. Couple percentage points. Now you own the whole thing.
Hey, Smiley Bat.
Imagine how many I guess profiles you could increase, or margins you could improve if you just know what to tweet and when.
I think he's pretty hard to read.
Yeah. I mean, my take on him is that he's kind of like one of those, almost like a stereotypical antisocial genius types that kind of taught himself how to be less antisocial. And so he's still getting his feet under him, but he's doing good. But I can tell by the way he speaks that he's the type that thinks while he's speaking. And I always find that interesting. I still don't know who he is as a person, so I can't make that judgment yet. But his outward appearance seems to be like he's generally just wanting to do good things. Sometimes, may not turn out that way, but I think he generally wants to do good things. I hope.
I think he's been on both sides of the fence, but it seems now that he's more on the good side of the fence. And I don't know if you ever watch, for comic relief, the Awaken with JP YouTubes, the guy with the long red hair. And he does spoofs on things. It's hysterical. I mean, it's really funny. Well, he did something, I think just today, on Elon's purchase of Twitter, and like how a representative of Elon comes in and speaks to the liberal staff, and they're all upset because it's censorship has gone away. It's pretty funny.
To me, he comes off as, I think he'll do what is right as long as he can profit from it at the same time. Because it seems like there's always something he gains financially.
Yeah.
When he's doing whatever seems to be right. I've yet to see him take a financial hit for doing something that's right. Which,
there you go.
I mean, that's smart business, but at the same point in time, you have to kind of examine his motives a little bit closer. And do you want to be painted as the good guy who made it out to be the richest man on earth, or you know, the okay guy who did it, or you know, the evil bastard who did it. But the one thing I always sit there and examine when you have people as wealthy as these folks that we're talking about is that it's easier for a rich man to, or I'm sorry, it's easier for a camel to thread the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven.
Well, his Neuralink definitely creeps me out.
Yeah, if you're smart, I think you'd be thinking the same thing. Yep, creeping me out too. I mean, I don't want to be like part of the Matrix.
I won't be touching it.
I don't think anybody will, except for
It's
the ones
definitely-
who are already pretty much brain dead.
I'd have
Yeah,
to change my YouTube name if I got on that ship.
It's definitely a dangerous game to play. I think
Very.
technically speaking, I think there's probably some good things to be had from it if it's managed by moral people. But
Oh, yeah.
it could so very easily be corrupted and to a horrendous level. I mean,
well, see, that's the whole thing about what we're going through now is all this technology. I mean, it's going to turn a lot of people away from technology, just like, you know, we're just talking about now. I'm never going to get this Neuralink thing. But this technology that adds this convenience, it's made so alluring that we don't even know that it's well, takes cell phones. I personally hate them, but all these cell phones, everybody's got one. If you don't have one, you ain't cool, or you ain't, you know, you can't, you know, be a part of the club type of mentality. All this stuff is designed so that even down to the flicker rate on the phone itself, it's designed to make you think slower, think less, have other people do the thinking for you, dumb you down. So if we all had a lick of sense right now, we'd be throwing these phones in a river.
Yeah, and simultaneously, all the dings and the notifications and everything else is designed to trigger a release of dopamine in your brain, making it just that more addictive. Yeah, but I mean, they purposely make it so that it's altering the chemistry in your brain, making you a complete moron, and you love it while it's happening.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'll be sitting there with your potato chips and on your couch, and you know your little Debbie snack cakes and all that stuff, and you'd be drooling like an idiot and just giggling at the next TikTok video. Everything's about the entertainment, keeping your brain occupied while basically it slowly loses its neural connections. Then it'll be easier for them to plug you into the Matrix.
Is it far away in the glitter freeze or in our eyes every time we meet? It's by the light of the plasma screens we keep switched on all through the night while we sleep.
Nice.
It's from a song called Broken by Gorillaz.
I like the Gorillaz.
It says there's nothing you can do for them. They are the force between when the sunlight is arising. I don't know that there's nothing can be done for them, but anything that is a force between like that, it's just something that gives us resistance so that we have something to push through, because without resistance, our fate is stagnation, the end result of stability. You know, like salamanders, a lot of salamanders never even reach maturity to procreate.
Hmm.
Because their existence is so lukewarm. They're toxic. Mostly, they don't have any natural predators. They don't really fight to survive. They just live in the mud.
Welcome, Wizard. Haven't seen him in a while. Yeah. The compound damage that has been done from, we're just talking about the phones, we're just talking about the flicker rates and all that. Then you have to add in air. We all know, it's pretty much common knowledge, you can almost every other day walk outside and see chemtrails. And there's a distinct difference before anybody wants to start arguing later on about condensation, chemtrail, not the same thing. You're right. They're not the same thing. Because condensation will go away after a few minutes, where the chemtrails stay spread out and become part of the weather system. And it's not good stuff that they're doing. They have told the mass public this, we're doing things to save the planet. No, they're not. They're destroying the planet. They're destroying it. And they're making all the dummies do it for them. Not to mention all the companies. But, you could use the old knowledge of basically they make us go through all these regulations, clean up our exhaust, from factories and, anything that comes out and has to be cleaned up. And, if you don't do it correctly, you're fined lots of money, and maybe even close down your plant, where other countries, they don't have to do it. I mean, we all know China pollutes, as they will. Nobody tells them what to do. Then we go into water.
So you know what really...
Huh?
Ooh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to go on water a little bit. You're talking about regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And think about one of the main... no, I can't come up with the right word. One of the main byproducts of the internal combustion engine. It's H2O is one of the primary, things that an engine puts out, besides its emissions. But it puts out clean water. I'm not saying I would drink straight out of a tailpipe, don't get me wrong, but all the cars buzzing around all the time. I mean, if we really wanted to end thirst around the world,
yeah,
filtered water out of everybody's tailpipe. There you go.
See, that's one of the things that perplexes me. I mean, I always come from a science angle just because I love my science until they destroyed it. But that's a different story. They want to go through and I kind of lost my train of thought explaining that. Duh. Let's see. We have the technology. We have had the technology. I'll say it. That's a better way of saying it. We've had the technology for many, many years to fix all these problems that everybody's screaming about. For instance, droughts in California. I mean, come on. We can make a desert bloom, and we can't, keep droughts from happening. I mean, all it takes here. I'll give you a $5 word here: desalinization. We know how to do it. Maybe a little expensive, but in the long run, it will save. I mean, something as simple as taking one of those Carnival cruise lines, parking it off the coast of California, gut that sucker out, and set it up as a desalinization plant and just pump that fresh water straight into California. Everybody's got plenty of water. And California has enough money, or at least used to to pay for that. Everybody have pretty much free water. And that's just one thing. Now,
Well,
something I came up
how
with.
else are they going to tax you for collecting rainwater?
Exactly. Money-making scams. They're easy to find because all you have to do is look at the government. There's perfect examples of money-making scam right now. I mean, we have plenty of laws that says that they can't do stuff, but they're doing it anyway, aren't they? Because a lot of people are ignorant of your own God-given rights. And notice I said God-given. It wasn't constitutional. No. We the people wrote the Constitution for them to follow those rules. We the people. Oh, I started going into a little bit of a rah-rah rant. But this list of grievances, it gets bigger and bigger by the day. I mean, if nothing else, it's just stuff you didn't remember the day before. I mean, just something as simple as the droughts. Easily done. And we could pump that water all over the United States. We're surrounded by water, you know. We could put desalinization plants down there at the South Coast, West Coast, East Coast. Hell, we could throw one in the oh, I just had a brain fart. The lake, the Great Lakes. We got water forever.
You know what? What really gets me is I think I saw this online, or I mean, I rarely watch television, so I can't remember exactly where I saw it. But you know, the pictures of the small children, I don't know, anywhere from 3 to 5 years old, and how they're so malnourished. And I remember seeing pictures like that decades ago, but I mean, they're a lot worse looking now. And that's the thing when I think, I mean, that is such a travesty when you think there really is no true shortage. And for our planet to have the wealth and resources that it does, there should not be one, well, there really shouldn't be one human being experiencing any lack at all. And those pictures
Absolutely.
are just to see a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old with skin hanging on the body. That's one of the most disturbing things to me.
And that's why you know you have that image in your head whenever you think about it, because it is disturbing. So they used it. Even that in itself teaches you what propaganda is.
I'm aware of that. I am.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah. I was gonna say, you know, what's interesting is it all, no matter what the situation is, like Nancy was saying, there's an abundance of everything all over this planet. And it's kind of like what keeps us from tapping into that. I mean, no matter where you are, wherever you are around the world, you know, what's keeping you from tapping into whatever it is that you need? Is it because you can't physically get it where you're at? Okay, so get up and go somewhere. Can you not get up and go somewhere because some outside force is keeping you from doing that? I mean, what it all boils down to, in my opinion, and I kind of get this opinion from the Bible, or maybe some Bible quotes that I've heard. It's kind of late, so I'm not going to give you an exact page to look at, but I think it all just stems from fear. No matter what it is that you fear, it's limiting you. So if you think about it, you know, this way, does a bird worry about it, where its next drink's going to come from? Does a fish worry about where its next meal come from? No.
Well, you make an
Whenever that
outstanding
bird
point.
when that bird is in thirst, it finds water. When the fish is in hunger, it finds food.
Guess
now
that's
that
one of the.
You don't ever hear about any of these crises really affecting other species.
Mhm.
It's a man-made problem, and if you believe in creation, I guess everything is here that we need, and if it's we can't find it, it's because we're stopping ourselves from obtaining it.
that's
You
it.
know,
Makes sense.
That all stems from fear. And the question is where does that fear come from? Who's planting that fear in you? Are you?
the ego,
All right, ego, the person standing
the,
behind you.
the false substance that tries to insulate the self from the world, and personification. One thing that is unique to the human species, as is this type of suffering, is personification. Other creatures, very intelligent ones, are able to identify themselves, like in a video or something, like dolphins or a raven or whatever, but they don't perceive their persona, as it is in the world, because they're not concerned about what they're going to be next, or what's going to happen to them next, or how somebody sees them, or what they remember about, or what something else remembers about them. They're living for themselves, not for the moment, but in the moment, just as a living creature instead of something with that extra knowledge. And the corruption in it is our knowledge of good and evil, because our understanding is limited. Our interpretation of things is wrong.
So
consistently. And it's even hard for me to understand how God can proclaim that he made both good and the evil, the day and the night, life and death. But he understands it. I just see things that I don't like as evil. But what do broken eyes know of proper arrangement?
So
we don't always.
So basically what I'm hearing is that ego is a millstone around your neck, and it's also the fuel in your vehicle.
Right. Consider an egg. So we have the yolk in the middle. That is what can be fertilized. That's what can become something. That's what can initiate into that genome process. And the transparent substance around it is insular and nutritive. It will be consumed by the yolk. But if it has to exist, and we can't exist without that insulation, then we're going to stagnate because we won't absorb it for fear that we'll be exposed. And that persona is the shell. It's brittle, it's on the outside, it's blanch, full of holes. And the ego is terrified that that shell would expose it. But what's supposed to happen is that yolk is supposed to be fertilized, and it will consume the ego if the shell is not smothered. And something will emerge from that, an individual, authenticated, without some vicarious approval of the crowd. That's what a lot of people are missing, and it's because of having a security mentality. That security is provided by painting the persona, whether it's with rainbow colors or dirt or gold, anything in between. It smothers what's inside because it fills those holes. The holes in the persona are meant to be there so that we can take in things from the outside, like oxygen, while we absorb that ego. It's a false self. That's the way to get out of our duality. But nobody ever does it. We can't. There's too many distractions and too many different pathways, mistakes that we never get over.
The ego is a powerful thing, and most people feed it, even if they don't even realize it. Oh, hey, Nate. Good to see you, buddy.
I'm going to have to go. I just have something come up that is going to demand my time.
All right, Cybertoxin. Thank you for coming up. I appreciate you always, brother.
I appreciate the opportunity. Bye.
Yeah. Take care, man.
It was nice hearing it. I really enjoyed listening to what you said.
You too, is it? I might be able to come back before y'all shut down. I don't know. Might see you later.
We'll be here, man. Wizard, welcome.
How are you?
All right. How you doing?
Fair to middling.
Yeah, that's good. So
keep it in the middle. It could go either way.
Yeah, stay in the middle gives you a better opportunity to keep track of both sides.
I like that, in conversation, but when we're on a topic and, if somebody's on the panel, they always take like the middle road. It's like, do you not have an opinion? Do you not like fight for one thing, or I don't know.
Well, hold on. There's a difference between that and being a host.
Oh, no. This is just like one YouTuber that I'm thinking of is, he's the host, but he always plays the middle. And we know that when he's on other places, it's not like that. He's very, very one-sided and, and all that. So it's just, it's all that.
Yeah, I kind of do both.
No, but we like to explore the untalked about. And I think that's the best part of your show sometimes, because it's like everybody, gets hooked on the mainstream media, and yes, they know they lie and all that, but they can't find any truth that, on other platforms or anything else. And they don't do any due diligence. So they just keep watching videos and videos and videos. And I'm like, you're just going to like, it's almost like your foot's nailed to the floor and you're like trying to just dance in circles. It's like,
oddly enough, I got a picture in my head before you even described it.
So did I. Literally, I don't know why.
Yeah, it's just challenging, and I try. I mean, man, I haven't been on with you in like 6 months or thereabouts. You kind of went on hiatus for a while.
Yeah, I'm not actually totally back yet, but I'm making a video here and there, or I'm doing a live stream here and there.
Everything's okay with you?
Yeah, it's just working hours. It's when by the time I get home, I just don't really feel up to being witty or anything like that. Plus, by this time, usually my brain starts going to mush and I start going goofy.
Hey, goofy is good.
I made myself get a little extra sleep, so I wouldn't go that route.
Yeah, I remember the times we were doing constitutional stuff, then it would like meld into like flat Earth, and then Operation what the heck is that called? Solar Warden. Then we did what the Constitution actually is, and if people were to realize it, that they they're not a party to it, and so how can they be governed under it? And all the 1A stuff and 2A stuff. It's like I just can't even listen to them anymore.
Oh, those darn constitutional rights. People swear they got them. I'm just like, okay, man.
You believe what you want. But we all know that it's a reminder. That document is almost reads like a Sesticate trust, but it also is a reminder to the government on what they're supposed to do and what they can't do. And everybody's like, oh yeah, 1A, 2A. And I'm like, well, what about the 9th and the 10th? I mean, that's about the most redundant 2 I've ever seen in my life. The 9th is there for a reason, but a 10th is to remind you of the 9th. So I'm like, people, you just have to read. I honestly don't think that they've ever read like subsections and, the legality of the 13th, is the 16th, was it ratified? I don't know. That's all just blows my brain up.
Yeah. One of the reasons me doing this YouTube streaming, it was an opportunity to take all the thoughts that I had in my head and put them out there for other people to react to and get their feedback from. See if I was just totally off my rocker or I was onto something. And, sure, some of my ideas, I'm kind of off the rocker, but for the most part, I've gotten good feedback. So, I mean, to me, this is kind of like an addiction in itself.
Oh, good. I mean, we all have it. I mean, when I'm not, watching television, I'm, picking up my phone. Did I just see it like a notification come up or, I haven't had it, happen when you're in the car or anything like that, and you can feel it buzzing in your pocket. That hasn't happened yet, but it's getting close. We did talk about that. We were coming like some kind of cyborg, right?
Well, yeah. Basically, we were touching upon how basically overall, a lot of the movies that we have seen, these sci-fi movies, they're kind of the beginnings of becoming true. Matrix was the example we were given because we were talking about Elon Musk and the Neuralink and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind if I touch on that for a second?
Please do.
I can't remember if it was in like the last 1 month or 3 months. Let's give it a 6-month window. Had you seen that interview that Elon Musk was doing about AI and how he was like so ultra afraid and we're there. We're to the point of no return. But yet he's making Neuralink. I don't understand how you can make a product and then on a global interview motherfuck your own technology. Did you see any of that?
No, I haven't gotten caught up with it. Please talk a little more about it.
I kind of know what you're talking about. I think I've seen that.
Yeah, and I mean he was like, he was no Guy Kawasaki with Apple. I mean, he was basically saying that he's responsible for what's to come. And I thought that was real fucking Terminator of him, I'm like, that's all I could think about was like, he was the boy, but he's a grown up now and he like is, my brain was going in a whole different direction after that. But after he said that, it just, I'm like, I can't even believe that what you're saying. And then I can't believe your stock didn't plummet like 40% just from, just from saying that.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, like what he was saying, and you can kind of verify what he was saying about like collecting data from the whole world and storing it to help build this sort of AI.
Right.
And then you sit there and sit there and look at what he's doing with Tesla and things like his Gigafactory that he built in Texas.
Right.
So all of his vehicles that are self-driving, they're taking images of the world around them. They're processing that storing it and uploading it to the cloud and then onto his things like his gigafactories. And he's mapping out on a, microscopic level the outside world. Kind of like what Google is doing with Google Maps, but
I completely agree.
He's gone to such a level as to where it used to be like people could wear a t-shirt with a stop sign on it, and it would actually cause his cars to stop.
Right.
And it's just a person with a stop sign on it. Now he's bypassed that, giving them sort of a fifth dimension to look at, and they just keep learning and learning. And all that time, we're scared about companies like like the really big ones that'll get us, to get your channel flagged, Vex.
All the alphabet words,
like one
or vegetable, or whatever the hell they call them.
Well, I'm thinking about some that start with the letter B, but or one in particular, a certain color of rock. But
gotcha.
All they do is harvest data. And
yeah, that was what I was going to say. If I was, once you're finished, I'm going to jump onto that.
Doing that. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Here we have a car company that's the first of its kind to truly succeed at what it's doing and giving people incentive to buy their product, like 50 cents to recharge on the side of the highway instead of filling up for $100 like I did today. It's
right.
It's insane. Like we're shooting ourselves in our foot by.
I believe that's probably that's the best quote I've heard about it in a long time, because we don't see what happens until the hindsight. You're like, oh yeah, I remember when 1995 when Windows came out, or when Facebook changed their name to Meta. Were they telling us something? I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to jump in until you were finished.
Well, I mean, in a nutshell, I was finished, and it sounds like everybody on here's got it. But I mean, it's not even hindsight's 2020 anymore. I mean, the future's been laid out in front of us by these big corporations. They tell us what they're doing. I mean, by law, they have to give notice, no matter which kind of jurisdiction you think you fall under or believe you belong in. In all of the jurisdictions, you still have to give notice of what it is, of your intent.
Correct. That's what the UCC 1's for.
Sure, and even in the common law, you have to give notice. In the corporate law, you still have to give notice of foreclosure or anything like that, or a notice of default, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I would assume they're using a common law because it's the grandest default, if you will, of law. And they're giving notice. They're telling you what's going on, what they're doing, how they're doing it. And people's this kind of comes full circle. People's egos are so swollen that it makes them blind.
I agree.
So blind to the point like we're metaphorically shooting ourselves in the foot.
Right. To absolutely agree with like 100% of what you just said. But I want to kind of jump off of that a little bit and give us a little reminder that Google is data mining all of our habits, all of our choices, and your search histories, and what you're searching for and why. And Facebook is taking all of our personal data and doing the very same. And now Tesla is doing whatever they're doing. It can't be good. And I think they're data mining for the new AI and all the teaching the AI to self-replicate is the only thing that came to mind. Like every situation has already been done. It already knows what can be done, but I don't know if it knows what should be done. And that's where I think you get the moral ethical dilemma that's only a human factor that can be done. I don't know. Kind of
No, like
stalled there.
so
The brain stalled.
For example, like with Tesla's vehicles, they had a moral dilemma on their hands with the automated braking systems. You know,
Right.
you say your car's on autopilot doing 30, 40 miles an hour, and it sees a human in front of the car. Well, the car sits there and checks the left-hand camera, sees that there's a semi-truck to the left. Then the car checks the right-hand camera, sees there's a semi-truck to the right. It checks the rear view camera, there's a car right behind you. The car then has to make a choice. Does it run over the human? Does it go left and right and kill the driver? Or does it slam on the brakes and get in a rear-end accident and risk the lives of both of the drivers and the person?
Wow, I hadn't considered that.
But there's going to be a program written into that computer's code, into that automated driving computer's code, to basically weigh the risk of each outcome.
I was just about to say risk assessment. What's the car is going to be what is the car that's driving, so the self-automated driving is going to be the one to survive. And what situation would be the likelihood that it'll have the less damage or no damage? And it may be taking out the human.
But the main focus that flashes in my mind on that is that we are relinquishing control of that choice,
right,
to the computer.
But well, you see, the real dilemma lies in the fact that we are allowing. It'll come full circle eventually once all of this is fully rolled out. But you know, hindsight's 2020, like you were saying, Wizard. You know, it'll be really hindsight's 2020 when we're in a position that we truly can't go back from. We can't make our own judgment calls anymore.
Right.
Because that would be the point. Like in some of the movies, the sci-fi movies, you know, they say, well, you overrid the computer, or you were driving the car manually. What's wrong with you? You know.
Right. Demolition Man, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something to think about. Do we really want to accept the luxuries? Are we so lazy as to accept the luxuries such as, you know, automated driving, which is collecting data on us, which will end up being our replacement? We're training the next person to come along and take our job away from us.
Right. I'll agree with that too, but I'm gonna play Mr. Hypocrite, because I usually do anyway. You know, we do it by choice anyway. Like, we think that Facebook is, you know, ours, and the pictures we put on there are ours, and the friends that we have on there are ours, and it's not at all. It's, you know, the largest, or in the history of the human being, it is the world's largest database of personal information. That was the one thing that the government could never get. And now we put it on there: pictures, time, date stamps, locations, passwords to banks. It's all there. And I mean, when you're playing those games, like what vegetable would you be if you were a celebrity or some horse shit? You know, or what was your, you know, where are you from? What was your mother's maiden name? What was your favorite dog? I mean, those are all bank security questions. Exactly. And that might be going too far, but I say that now, and I mean, in a year, it's going to be like, hey, Wizard, you weren't so crazy, because the shit's happening. I mean, we think of something, and people have already been doing it for like 8 months to a year. And I never even gave it a first thought to be like so fucked up. and it's being done.
Well, we usually see it in society, and then most people recognize it 8 months later, but then
Right.
the reality of it is the military's been doing it for 4 years before that.
Right. Oh my God. We're all going to be best friends. We're so like-minded, and it's not in a game or anything. And I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have laughed, but it's a hideous thought that our government can be that devious. If there was a worse word, I would have used it, but that was the first one that came to mind. And then you talk about
the worst word you used there was our.
Right.
Our government.
Sorry about that.
Not ours.
Didn't mean to lump you in with the rest of me. But yeah. And a lot of people
how
I
could we
talk
truly
to
call them ours if it's out of control and not of the people, by the people, for the people? It's not ours.
Right.
It's theirs.
And the same people that are like touting this 1A and 2A stuff like they have any control over it. They're the ones that are saying like, oh fuck, I lost my thought. Give me a minute, it'll fish around.
It's all right.
Damn, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, somebody said Nate too good or Nate good, whatever. He said
Nate
somebody wrote the code. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote the code, but guess it's not who you think. It's not somebody sitting behind a keyboard. Or maybe it is.
Oh.
It's everybody behind the keyboard.
I got my thought. And they always say that they're in America and they're United States citizens and everything. Well, that's actually kind of true and kind of not. I mean, we are still a republic, and the United States is that 9 square miles or 8 square miles in Washington, D.C. Has nothing to do with the other 50 states. We're actually like technically separate. They made themselves technically separate with the Act of 1871.
Yeah.
When they made themselves a corporation, they put themselves in their own basket of self-legislation, which was a crime because they needed congressional approval. And Congress can't give themselves self-legislating approval. So I never knew how that actually went, but it happened.
So
and
here's a nugget for you.
Ooh, dig nuggets.
All right. 1861, what happened?
Fuck, I didn't know I was going to history class. Help a 50-year-old brother out.
Okay. 1861, the Civil War broke out. Congress went sign die. Do you know what sign die means?
I hadn't heard that phrase. Sorry.
Yeah, so if a governing body, or really anybody, not anybody, but any body
of legislation, gotcha.
That is, goes sign and die, that means that their business, the business before them is no more. It's non-existent. And they don't ever set a date to reconvene. So they no longer exist, and they have no date to reconvene in the future because they either on purpose or accidentally stated on their own record that they have no business before them and they're never going to reconvene. So
well, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Right.
Yeah, the Civil War broke out because the South was gone and they lost their quorum. Quorum is what you need to have a meeting and conduct business.
Correct.
So if they can't do that anymore, and once that Civil War is over, how are they going to return to self-governing when they went sign die? They can't.
It has to be something totally different.
So 1861 wasn't a bankruptcy; it was actually the sign and die.
There was a well, there was a bankruptcy.
The 1.7 million we owed to Franks to the French.
Ooh. This I'm not too keen on, but so the first bankruptcy was what, 12 years after
Well,
the 13
just to get your
colonies became a
timeline and your
nation.
math correct, just to get your timeline and your math correct, if you go back every 80 years from 1999, you'll come to a bankruptcy and a matching world war.
True, but if you actually go back every 70 years from 2001, you get all a different set of events that correlates directly with bankruptcies. And there's also
Really?
an event. Yeah, there's an event prior in history, usually 5 or so years before whatever event, that'll indicate something's going to happen. So September 11th, we know it happened. We go back to 1931, 70 years later. We get the 70 years prior. We get not the Federal Reserve Act, but we get, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. The legislation that basically made it illegal to own gold and silver bullion.
Yeah.
Oh, that was in 1933, I think, with Roosevelt, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, one of them, either the Federal Reserve Act came in. Oh, no, the Federal Reserve Act was 1913.
Then 31, that was the start of the Depression, which was a bankruptcy. And then the gold grab was in Roosevelt's term, because I know he.
Yeah, it's 33 or 31.
Yeah,
So
I know something
roughly
about.
70, either way. But also, interestingly enough, can I help connect some of that? 70 years is the lifespan of a note. A note is a type of loan which lasts 70 years until it's collectible. Interestingly enough, we have Federal Reserve notes.
Right. It's a financial instrument.
Yes.
I'm not sure on the loan. I'd more call it a bond than a note, or than a loan. But it's just it's okay. You'd look at it the same way. I mean, it's still backed by nothing.
But the pattern still emerges.
Correct. Interesting. I never did the 70-year, but that makes a lot of sense because there has to be some kind of, I hate to be ignorant, but like pre-bullshit before the actual bullshit happens.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I believe, 12 years after the founding of the nation.
Right.
Is when we first went into debt.
Right.
So
the one I remember
continues all the way up to the Lewis and Clark expedition.
You have my attention? You have my attention?
All right. So that Lewis and Clark expedition, we borrow money, 15 million or so, plus the money to give warships to Napoleon, for that Louisiana purchase. Well, the government realized they made it. Yeah, 15. What a deal.
Yeah, sorry.
What a deal. I mean, steal of the century, no pun intended.
And what's funny is that there's some people, there's some legislation in Louisiana that is still governed by France.
Oh yeah.
Inside of the continental United States. I couldn't even believe that when I heard it.
Well, yeah, you get all parishes and wards.
Yep.
Where's that come from? But anyways, that Lewis and Clark expedition, they were sent out to evaluate the land and what was on it, and find trade routes, find the Indians, find the minerals, find the plants, discover whatever. Well, all of that has a value, adds value to the land. So what do you do before the bank calls or somebody says, hey, you owe me this much money, Well, you gather up your stuff and you look and see what you got to sell.
Right.
That's what the Lewis and Clark expedition was.
They were surveying the United States.
They were surveying and checking out the assets to see what we had to liquidate for the payment of the debt that we had coming out. And that was
No shit.
That was year 8. Oh, Lewis and Clark set out in 18. I don't know if anybody can chat can help me out. I can't remember exactly what year. Louisiana Purchase was made in 1801, I believe, or maybe 1803. But either way, they had that $15 million for the 6% interest rate. In the meantime, we get the oh man, I'm really struggling tonight. We get the war between the Spanish, the
Lewis and
Indians.
Clark expedition was from August 31st, 1803 to September 25th, 1806.
1806. Okay. So 3 years after the Treaty of Cession of 1803. Okay.
So then
Anyways.
7 years later, this was the pre-bullshit, and then the War of 1812 happened.
Yes.
Funny how that happened.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Well, that happens. A lot of American history is lost. We don't have to necessarily go into that, but if we're trying to stick to the money, follow the money, if you will. But
I always thought that was a French invasion because the King of England thought that we were his people, and that's why he came back in and paid off the $1.57 million to France and reestablished the 13 colonies as British colonies, and we've been paying reparations to England ever since. That's why one of your 1040 forms goes to Austin and the other one goes to Utah. The form goes to Austin, but the payment goes to Utah. And I think 40% of that goes to England, and maybe 10% of that 40% goes to the Vatican.
Sup, dog?
yeah, following money, approximately 70 years later, Act 1871.
Wow.
Then we get to the Congress went sign die. I don't know how far we got before I got sidetracked. Went sign die. And then the only way that they could constitutionally put back together what they had so royally, no pun intended, royally screwed up was to allow the military to take over and install martial law.
Correct.
And I found proof of that where I'm at in local museums.
Proof of the martial law?
Yeah, in newspaper clippings and some other articles just in the museums and in the local historical societies. But
does it have anything to do with like the first time that they instituted the War Powers Act? And we've been in a constant state of emergency since that War Powers Act was.
I don't believe so at that time period. But
Gotcha.
it evolved into that eventually.
How far down that rabbit hole have you gone?
I think all the way.
Wow, that would be a freaking show in itself. I mean, I am very intrigued.
This is what me and Vex used to talk about all the time.
I hear a lot of it, but I never hear any like, I can go and find it here or any evidence or anything like that. I mean, it makes sense, but there's no like hyperbole. Like going into court, passing the bar, it's all has to do with maritime, and you can't say certain things in court or else they'll just continue it or whatever.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean?
and if we follow this timeline, you can kind of see how that comes to be. And we're not that far off from where it starts to reveal itself, but anyways, constitutionally, the only way they could truly rebuild the self-governance without the military taking over, a military coup, they put into effect Lieber Code 100, I believe it is. If somebody in the chat has the exact Lieber Code, it's either 100 or 11110. But I'm sure somebody can
And
help
what
with that.
was the rest of your thought for the Libra Code? I mean,
yeah, the Lieber Code says that until the people can return to self-governing, that the military is going to contract out the 19 essential services to the people until the people can return to that self-governing. And until then, this company or this corporation that's contracted out to provide the services will remain in power. So
you're saying the military is actually in charge, and they're the puppeteers, and Congress are the puppets?
No.
Well, part of that
the military
is true.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
I was going to say part of that is true to where they're puppets, but not the military. The military are kind of just standing off to the side and just following along with what they're supposed to be doing.
All right, so they're not part of the 19 services.
They're one of them.
Oh.
The constitutional branches of military are part of that. But over that Reconstruction era, essentially they hired the company because how can you protect the whole country, provide security, train troops, do all this, that, and the other, while doing all of the work that is the people's work, and still maintain the security. So they hired the Virginia Company
out of France, I believe.
Are those the Pinkertons?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyways, this Virginia Company has changed names multiple times. It's gone from the Virginia Company to the all caps USA or capital US or the all caps United States.
Right. We've all seen all of those on, Dun and Bradstreet.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And basically that evolved where one of those companies was based out of London. One was based out of the Vatican. The other one was based out of Virginia. More specifically, Washington, D.C.
When you say one, are you talking about is it the Tri-City Commission or the...
I'm talking about the District of Columbia. It's 10 square miles.
Right, but it's called the three city states: London, Vatican, and DC. That's why their flag in DC has 3 stars on it. That's where the connection is.
That's a very interesting connection. I did not know that.
And by the way, if you ever look on Google Earth, it's not 10 square miles. It's like 6 or 7, because George
Yeah.
Washington got really pissed off and took back part of his plantation that he was going to lease out to this new district. And we think it's 10 miles, but it's actually less than that.
Interesting. I've heard it was less. I believe I knew it was less. I did not know it had anything to do with Washington, but I do agree with you. It is less than 10.
Part of that parsec, maybe in Virginia, the Virginia part of it. Or
Yeah, one of the states. One of the states did for sure. But anyways, you know, I believe it's the Vatican that controls the military. It's basically giving orders to our military, and that's how the military-industrial complex evolved.
Correct. Under the guise of spiritual guidance or something.
Under the guise of spreading freedom or democracy everywhere, you know.
Evil comes in many words, right?
Yeah, and they're spreading. Yeah, they are spreading democracy. They're not spreading about, you know, Republican form of self-governance. They're spreading democracy, which is mob rule. But
right, it's actually very much corporate.
But that's how we get down the line to, you know, towards the printing of money, and that falling into the hands of the Federal Reserve banks, things like that. Because if you read the Constitution for the United States of America, you know, we're supposed to print and coin our own money here. It's not supposed to fall.
I don't think we've never had our own strategic metals contract, as far as I know. That's why we're piping it out to the Fed.
Well, originally, I think the best or closest we ever came was we had a contract or a deal negotiated with Great Britain, and they coined money for us because we just didn't have the equipment to do it in the volume that we needed it. So we had our own currency, but we weren't making it ourselves.
That kind of brings me back to my thing about, you know, us still being a British colony. Because if we're trying to like get away from England, but yet we're letting them print our money, I'm thinking I'm using the word let, and I shouldn't be, because we never had our own strategic metals contract to where we can print our own coinage. So that's why England was doing it for us. And it may put a little bit of validity on what I was saying. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, because why would you want to like rob a bank and then walk right into the police station with all the money and say, here, take it? You know, that's kind of what we did with England. We didn't really want to have a lot to do with them, but yet we're letting them.
The original colonies had a lot of sway in the early days with all of the trade that Great Britain was doing.
Yeah, for like 95 years, it was great, right? From the Act of 1871.
Yeah,
back to that again.
It gets kind of hairy, because on one hand we were kind of saying, hey, we'll make sure all of the privateers, or the pirates and, you know, privateers aren't going to mess with your slave trade, your sugar trade, all that in South America.
At what cost?
Protect the coast. We'll protect the coast from Spain, the pirates, and all that. But if we do that for you, we need you to print our own money. You know, and that was kind of the lines I think they drew. And this, you know, in the sand.
I hope that is the way it is, because if it goes the other way, then it's been collusion for 256 years.
Sure. Well, and the other thing you have to keep in mind is that the founding fathers called it the American experiment for a reason.
Right?
Because even then, they weren't sure it was going to last, or if it could.
Well, last. I mean, it almost had to, because everyone that came over here was going to go back to England, and they were going to get their necks stretched for treason.
Huh.
I mean,
most of the founding fathers, lost everything they had.
Right.
But they also became constitutors by signing the Constitution.
Right.
So, and if you don't know what a constitutor is, it's a word worth looking up. Because all of the debt fell in their hands. As part of that trust.
I didn't get that syntax grammar. I never really realized that's what it was. Interesting.
Words are very powerful,
signed on
especially in how you use them.
Right? Well, I had heard just the other day that there was I can't remember the name of the word. I think they're called confederators. That a lot of the people from the South went to like Brazil and Venezuela and stuff like that. And they're still there, still raising the rebel battle flag. In 2022, they're still there.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting context that can be applied to the word Confederate or Confederacy.
Right.
Do you know what document came before the Constitution?
No, I'm thinking the federal papers. No.
Pretty close.
Yeah, the Confederate Constitution.
The Articles of Confederation.
Thank you. Funny how a lot of those verbiage are in our actual Constitution, which is funny.
Well, yeah, they were almost the same thing, except for the Articles of Confederation didn't allow for commerce.
Interesting.
So they came up with the Constitution. The Constitution for the United States. Not the Constitution of.
I had read somewhere that was the last legit government before our Constitution. It was actually more legit than our Constitution is now, or before 1871. I mean, they had everything was legit. They had their flag, they had their banking system, post office, all that kind of thing, and they were actually legit.
Yeah, I mean, the Constitution 4 was, I would, paraphrase, it was pretty legit. There's some questionable moments, but I mean, all around, I'd say they did what they intended to do successfully. But there's an interesting quote that goes around, and it's not often fully given. And the quote is came from after the Constitution was drafted, and a lady walks up to Ben Franklin, and after he's walking out of Constitution Hall or Liberty Hall, whatever it's called there in Philadelphia, came up and asked him and said, "Mr. Franklin, what kind of government have you given us?" And he said, "Well, we've given you a republic, if you can keep it." And the quote usually often ends there, but it's often left out what Mr. Lee said right after Franklin. And he said, "You'll get a democracy if you can't keep it."
No kid.
Mm-hmm.
That makes perfect sense. It's like Lee knew what was going to happen in 2022.
Well,
yeah, these guys were pretty damn smart.
I mean, the way that they put this out, growth, commerce, population, land grabs, all that kind of stuff. It was amazing. Just the eloquency of that document and what they were thinking. I couldn't imagine like the fucking knockdown, drag out fights that they would have. But they had to do it then.
Yeah, well, the foresight they had was pretty amazing.
Astute. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They lived tyranny. They knew all about it. So they can make common sense decisions for the future. And that's what they did.
Hmm.
Makes sense.
I mean, if you're living it, you know it best.
Right. I never gave that a first thought. Thank you for that.
But
Wow.
here's you're asking kind of for some validation on some of those things I was talking about on the banking stuff.
Oh, always. I want to hear everything.
So I'm sure there's validation on the same website, and I'm gonna plug National VEX. But as far as the
national-assembly.net.
I know that website.
exactly, yep. Um, I think it's in the resources tab on the front page. There's PDF. It's called "Where Are We the People,"
Hmm.
and it lays out the whole financial banking situation as it happened. You know, it's got a pretty good timeline. You know, all the way to the
Then, or
signing
were
of.
they predict? Was it then,
But
or were they predicting the fractional banking system?
no, they've laid out as it happened throughout history. Like, you know, that 70-year mark
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning there till the signing of the treaty with the Japanese on the USS Missouri. I mean, they've got all those key points in history.
Oh wow.
You know, all the way up to 2001. And that's got some pretty good references in it if you're looking for references on a lot of that. Lots there to look at. So.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah,
that flag that I
I've
had up
been
on
down most
screen
of that
just
rabbit
now,
hole.
real quick,
Oh,
let
I
me
didn't,
say this.
I didn't see it. I had my phone in my pocket.
Oh, I had the DC flag up, basically red and white with 3 stars. Had it up for a little while, but yeah, just so you know, that's the flag of DC. And real quick in chat, assalamu alaikum. You have a point as far as the educational system has failed, and here I'll put it up on screen real quick so you know what I'm talking about. I hate abstract political theories. Fair enough. The lemmings go goblin mode and can't handle thinking. You're absolutely right. By design, it was made to do so, and that's why we're fighting this uphill battle of just outright stupidity and insanity. Is because they've made it commonplace for everyone. Now, I mean, it sucks and it's very frustrating, but it's the reality we have to deal with right now. And one way is something that I'm looking into is basically getting rid of the propaganda. Because once we do that, we can start bringing the people who, well, they can't be reached now. Those type of people, it's going to take a little bit longer. And some of these people are actually criminally insane.
Agreed.
So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of cleanup as far as that goes. And one more thing. What was it he was saying? They shouldn't, they shouldn't be allowed to. I'm missing where he had it written because he's been talking. But it was basically saying they shouldn't be allowed to, voice their opinions, for the most part. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Right.
And to a certain extent, he's right. But to a certain extent, he's wrong because every person, whether their intelligence is high or low, should be able to understand the laws they live under.
Correct.
And that is the big deal right now, is because I don't know what all the laws are. Do you? Hell, the lawyers themselves don't even know what all the laws are. They have to go and research them.
Right.
Yeah, sure, there's a few big cases they keep in their memory banks, but for the most part, yeah, they're digging through it every time. That's why I call them interpreters. They interpret the law for us. Now, but I have to take a step back from saying they interpret the law for us, because they don't
Correct.
interpret the law for us.
No,
They interpret
protecting
the law against us.
Correct. Protecting a corporation.
Yeah, exactly. The crown. The crown's interest. We
Correct.
have not stopped fighting the British. It never ended. It just changed. But as far as the people, some of them, they need to be figured out if they are insane or they are sane or insane. And once that is determined, then even the ones that aren't very smart have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And they are allowed to be heard. Once we get past the insanity part, of course. I yield.
Yeah, I appreciate his constructive criticism. That was well thought out comments. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may, one thing I was going to add, just as far as that one comment that you threw up there on the screen, said the American education system, and I'd love to know what the hell the American education system is, besides the government full system. And then also where are you guaranteed this education system? And when did it become government's job to educate anybody? Because it never has been, and it never will be their job. It's the parents' job. But other than that, I just want to throw that out there. That guy, I don't know Arabic very well, or whatever language that was, but I know it means peace unto you. So peace unto you, sir.
Hey, he's not wrong about what he's saying. He's just frustrated.
Oh yeah.
I didn't get to read all of them. A lot of them were too.
He sounds like he's pretty much in line with the same type of things that we think.
Well, come on up here. Well,
yeah, there is
it's not my place to invite, but
no, that's you're right on target. There is a link up there at the top of chat and YouTube. You can join us up here. Just follow the instructions in StreamYard. They're really easy, and you don't have to run a cam if you don't want to. You can put up an icon like we got, but make sure you got
Bigfoot.
or a picture of Bigfoot. Just have yourself a good mic, and I prefer you use. It works a lot better if you use a headset, so you don't get any feedback.
The interesting comment he said was the low IQ people were not allowed to vote until the 1960s. That's pretty awesome.
I mean, if you have a low IQ and you believe that, then yeah.
That's just yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
The concept of the freedom to be free is not known by everyone.
That's true. Wanted to throw this up on screen. It says, if you guys are still going on my internet maintenance, when the internet maintenance is done, another reason I'm kind of being a dick is I will definitely come on, but I'm going to be hostile because that's just my debate style. So we try not to be hostile.
May I? If you switch to a may I and I yield, you know, that usually works.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty, but argumentative is, beyond, like, what do they call that? Doesn't make the conversation move forward, so.
Kind of like putting a nail in your foot.
Right.
In the circle, yeah.
Right on. I agree with that. Heck of a guy said that earlier.
Yes.
What I like to do.
Stuck with me.
Yeah, sorry, I'm stepping on both you guys. But what I like to do with my live streams is try and make it as educational as possible. Try and make difficult concepts breakdownable for the common person to understand. An argumentative way of debate is not really where I'm wanting to go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got questions about things and want to inform other people about your, point of view and stuff like that, yeah, that's fine. But I don't really want an argumentative debate. because
that's what I
just
like
find
about
that
your that's what I like about your channel. Everything's kind of like just put out there and discussed. Nobody has to be right or wrong. But if it got somebody else to think about something, like, wow, I never thought about that or never thought about that in that direction or whatever, you know.
Yeah. To me, argumentative debate is, great for entertainment, getting views, stuff like that. That's not what my channel's for. I do want views, of course, and all that stuff, but it's not my main focus. My main focus is to get out information that the mass
Right.
public, I believe, really need to know. Such
Or
as, we could take a little health break here and say that everybody should be checking into supplements. Get you some iodine, get you some silver, a good vitamin mineral type of drink mix that covers a lot of the essential multivitamins that you need on a daily basis. Part of the reason why we're in the state we are in this people is because bad nutrition. Everything in the grocery store is lacking in the nutrition that we need on a daily basis. Now, if you don't get the nutrition you need, that enables your cells not to work properly. What happens when cells don't work properly? They malfunction and become cancerous and things of that nature. They foul up. They can only use the stuff that you supply them. So get yourself healthy, and your brain will thank you, your body will thank you, and you will thank you.
right.
Okay, that was my little commercial for health.
Yeah, I mean that you have a lot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna point out the comment there in the chat. Let's see. There are winners and there are losers. Thinking that doesn't solve an issue is useless. It's abstract thought. Absolutely. And opening up or sticking your head or sticking a flashlight into the rabbit hole is kind of where you have to start. You kind of have to know where things went wrong before you can pick up and try to rebuild, or else you just make the same mistake. And that's kind of where we're at in the conversation. So
right, we always think like
whoever made that comment, I'm just pointing that out to them. If they want a solution, we can start talking about solutions.
But we always think like we're behind the eight ball, and in that regard, I think since we're not read into what these agendas are, that's what these rabbit holes are. Maybe it's the wrong rabbit hole, or maybe there's two rabbit holes. There's like a little channel or something down the hole. You have to go to the right to find out what Agenda 2030 is about. But if you went left, you'll find out what Agenda 21 is about. And it's a guessing game until the hindsight comes and we're like, oh yeah, we saw that 6 months ago. But it takes a long time for things to unfold. And that's where the challenging part and the frustrating part that everybody on the panel seems to be, going through, and everybody in society,
If I may, I guess rabbit holes was probably maybe the wrong metaphor to use. Think of it like a car. We started out in this vehicle, in the 1770s. We started driving it. We hit a couple bumps in the road. We got back on course. We hit a deer. We started cruising again. And these rabbit holes are kind of like a rear view mirror. You can look behind you, see what's in the past. You said, oh, I just hit something. What was it? Look back in the rear view. Oh, that was a deer. Okay, watch out for deer now. Well, you got this instrument cluster in front of you telling your speed, your RPM, your oil pressure, your battery voltage, your coolant temperature. You're not paying attention to those, the current. the how things are right now. If you're not looking down to check that out, you're never going to know how fast you're going. You could be 2 miles an hour. You could be doing 100. You wouldn't know. Or your coolant gauge, temperature gauge could be at 260. You could be overheating and you wouldn't even know it unless you look down to check, gauge where you're at. And it's kind of like what I was saying.
I'm
Those
kind of
rabbit
losing
holes.
you. Yeah.
It's kind of like what I was saying. Those rabbit holes are for is, you can look behind you, say, oh crud, I just hit something. And then you look back and say, oh, I hit a deer. That's what I hit. Okay. And then you look at your gauges and you say, okay, well, is everything fine? It's not fine. Okay. Well, what we did in the past was the American people just fell asleep. They didn't look at the gauges. Well, what we're doing now is looking at the gauges and saying, oh, crud, we hit a deer. Oh, the truck's overheating. We got to pull over and fix this. You can't just keep going. That's the metaphor I meant, more or less, more elaborate, but you can't get stuck in all the rabbit holes. You just kind of got to look and see, like, oh, hey, this is something that happened. It's pretty crappy, Oh, the coolant gauge is 200. That's no good. Got to stop that,
Oh, I see
But
what you're saying.
You gotta fix all those things or know what happened or know what went wrong before you can continue down the path.
Right. Or the legislation that was put into place 6 months ago for what's going to be happening today. Knowing what happened in the past, living your life, and then seeing what's happening today. I finally found out what you're saying. I got you.
Yeah, well, you're halfway there. If you were 100% the way there, you'd realize that legislation that they, keyword they, passed, because it's a foreign body, not organic to this country, to this nation, to these people, or the laws of this land. It's something foreign. What they do only applies to us because we consent to it, because we don't know any better. We didn't look in the rearview mirror and say, oh, hey, we hit a deer. Or, oh, hey, we had a civil war and Congress went signed that. That's not our government.
Right. So what do we do as a people?
Well,
besides another constitutional convention.
Well, there's something to that. But we got to be careful about that as well, because there's people out there calling for those Article 5 conventions.
Well, actually, I misspoke. I wanted to say a continental I want to say continental convention, but you can't say that, so it'd be a congressional convention now.
Yeah, it'd be continental convention in sorts.
The after the second Continental Congress, they passed some legislation, and I don't even think they had a quorum back then, but they passed. Maybe I don't even know what it was, to be honest with you. It's getting a little late, but they passed it at a congressional convention, not a Congress, and I thought that was just an interesting, wording. Like the Congress would have been legit, and the convention was more of what they had to get away with because they didn't have a quorum.
Yeah, I guess. If you think about this, what needs to happen, we need to duplicate, because it's such a unique idea concept, and it's only the very basics of it all is only found in one place in the world, and that's here in these United States. How was it done the first time? How did the founding fathers pull it off the first time? How did they do it? How did they do it lawfully? How did they do it morally? And how did they did it in a way that benefited basically everyone, and it could grow from there? So you got to pull out the history books. You got to look and say, what did they do? And then we got to follow their footsteps to the T. Because the tyranny they experienced, yeah, it was different. But tyranny is tyranny.
Right.
Tyranny is tyranny is tyranny. So somebody's going to rule over you or try to with an iron fist. How's it been subverted in the past? How is there victory claimed over that in the past? Let's duplicate that. And that starts with self-governance and knowing where your rights come from, knowing the very basics, the very common sense stuff. Like, we'll get to that convention piece of that, but I mean, where do our rights come from?
Ooh, I know.
We were born with them. I mean, inalienable. That's what it means.
Sure, we're born with them, and where do we come from?
Oh yeah, no. I'm getting the esoteric part of it now. All right, I'm with you.
Where do you come from?
Mama's belly.
All right. Do you believe in a higher power?
Yes.
He's a wizard. He is a higher power.
In a way, I mean, I have faith, but I don't have any ties to any I don't go to
that's
a
fine.
building
That's fine.
to do that.
Hey, it's all good. But like a lot of people, anyways, would you say there's a creator?
I
Somebody
hope so.
created where we're at. I mean, you have to take a guess. When. I mean, it's either
In a way,
you have
I hope
everything to
there's.
gain or you have nothing to gain. I mean,
In a way, I hope there's an almighty deity out there, but on the other hand, I want this to be like a big zoo planet, and we were all put on here by some alien race that's like a bunch of millennial old. And
but either
I
way,
mean,
it's a
I've heard
creator.
both stories, right?
Either way, it's a creator. Somebody created it. It didn't just come from nothing.
Right.
So it sounds like you believe in a creator, whether you think that's an almighty out of the Bible, or whether you think it's somebody in a flying saucer. It's creationism, and there's a fundamental laws to creationism. The what is created cannot destroy what created what created it. In theory, in essence, in harmony with the universe, in all those ways. But if you believe you're created and you're born with a certain set of rights, freedom of speech, the freedom to protect yourself, the freedom to be heard by a set of laws, by a jury, that you can't, there's just a basic set of morals that everybody agrees on, which is often referred to as common law or nature's law, because they're absolutes,
Which come from?
and they're found everywhere. I'm sorry.
I said which they come from, the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, they come from, whether you believe it's nature or it's God, Ten Commandments or the natural law. But either way, they're the same. But these rights it's just a piece, an aspect of life that's undoubtable, and it's been put onto paper. And those rights come from the fact that you were created by something higher than you. So that right there makes you equal to everyone else in every way possible. So understanding that is can be a challenge for some people to fully grasp it. But like I was saying earlier, the freedom to be free is kind of like the right to be free. You only have it if you can imagine it, and you can only have it if you know that you have the right to do it and you can exercise it.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody in the United States since its inception has ever known freedom.
I would say the first generation probably had it down pretty good because they could at least imagine it. And they did one really grand thing with it, and that was build a country with laws and absolute rights that can't be ignored by anyone.
Right, but I mean, almost on
They
the
changed
end
the
of your
world.
sentence, I said that we've never known freedom, and you're saying governing. I've heard people say in the past in other chats that you've never known freedom if you let yourself be governed.
Yeah,
So
and what I'm saying, what they did with their freedom, and freedom's not a tangible thing. It's a way of thinking. So the freedom that I'm saying that the founders had was that freedom to create. And they created a nation, a way of governing. And like you said, yeah, how can you be free if you're being governed by someone else? Well, they did the exact opposite of that, and they created a government where they govern themselves. Am I on point with what you were bringing up there, or not?
I guess it's just late, and I'm getting a little froggy. I just can't get away from the governing and freedom. Um,
Mm.
it's not as black and white as you have to have either or, but I guess in a stable society, you have to have some laws to keep everyone safe, and there has to be reciprocity or some type of if you do X, then Y happens, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah. Then otherwise it would just be absolute anarchy.
Correct.
Think about the Wild West.
Right.
But even in the Wild West, there were laws.
Right.
Absolutely. But there was just as many people breaking them. But they understood the consequences of that, and they took that risk.
Right.
Because it was widely known that you follow this set of rules. I mean, having a common set for everyone to follow so everybody knows what it is basically what we're missing. And it's the reason why they've been so successful is because they have legalese the crap out of us to the point we need an interpreter for the law. We shouldn't need an interpreter for the law. It should be simple for everyone to understand from low IQ to high IQ. It should be understand. Even Jesse James knew he was doing stuff wrong. I mean, at least to one side. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, somebody in the chat said a righteous people follow the law, so there is no need for tyranny. And I'd like to put a little bit of emphasis on righteous people, which I'd like to say that's why I love the Beatitudes. And judging from the guy's screen name, he may not know the Beatitudes, but either way, if you don't know the Beatitudes, I highly encourage you to look at them, because I don't think there's anybody on this planet that would disagree with what Jesus said at the Sermon on the Mount. Just because it's common sense, and it's just wholehearted. I guess it's not necessarily religious. It's just I don't know. You check it out for yourself. But the other thing is that a righteous people, using that word righteous in that same context as the Beatitudes, the laws are going to be righteous laws, which is the common law, natural law, or as some people like to call it, the 10 Commandments. And you pull any 5-year-old from anywhere around the world and ask them, can you list 10 things that are just very wrong? And it's going to fall somewhere in line with those 10 Commandments. And that is really all the law should be.
Well stated point. Sure.
Now, like I said, the 10 Commandments were the basis of our laws. The basis, the very beginning. Whether you believe in God or not, it was widely believed that those were good rules to follow. And, well, you know, people liked them. And if you broke the law, stuff happened. That's what another part we're missing is people don't know the consequences, people don't know the law, and people don't expect consequences because they're never taught it. I mean,
well, the laws back in the Old West are, there were like, what, 8? And now there's like, what, 10,000 laws?
yeah.
It's daunting. I mean, they say on the average, people break like 16 or 18 laws a day, every day, and they don't even know it.
Yeah, the IRS books, there's like 18 volumes or something, and they're all a couple thousand.
It's like 36,000 pages, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the idea of what America, by principles, ought to be is foreign to us today because we've been so indoctrinated with things like, like Vex was saying, you need somebody to interpret law for you because, it's not written in the everyday man's vocabulary, for one. And second of all, there's just so many. Somebody could say you broke a law and you wouldn't even know if it was true or not. Unless you had
even
some
the
help.
Cops don't know.
Somebody. Yeah. So, with that being said, in the founding of this nation, there were only 3 felonies. 3.
Right.
Oh, what was it? Piracy.
Yeah, I don't have them memorized.
Capital murder. It's piracy, capital murder, and
I thought it was theft. I thought it was theft, but yeah.
Well, piracy is theft.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, piracy, counterfeiting, and I believe capital murder. That was it. It's pretty manageable. So a lot of people want to act like it's some fairy tale and it could never happen again, but I mean we live our lives and the first thing we do is pick up our phone and we from the moment we open our eyes, take in and absorb this indoctrination from social media, from these news outlets, and we forget the very basics. Who are we?
Right.
Where do we come from?
Right. We think we're one thing, but the government thinks us another. And we're treated as such. I mean, the government treats us like they call us chattel. And
Yeah.
I can only prove that if you go into like cornelluniversity.edu, Title 7, subsection 136 or 137, I think it is, section D, definitions of animal. And it's like invertebrates, mammals, humans are considered animals by definition.
Yes.
So
You ever opened up a Black's Law dictionary?
oh yeah. Oh man, don't get me started. Oh,
Check out
I
the
will
word
tell you.
person.
Oh yeah, I looked up citizen too. That fucking thoroughly pissed me off.
Yeah.
But a lot of those definitions are not in any of the volumes after I think Black's 5th and 6th, because I was looking for them in the 11th edition, and they're not even present. I don't know if you have to move over
I've
to
seen them in the
Bouvier's
7th.
or okay. Thank you for
But
that.
yeah, the Bouvier's is a good, very, very interesting one to look at.
And
It goes
you know
even
a lot.
darker. It goes even darker because you know how we were talking about all capital letters and stuff like that. As far as the legal system and everything like that, that's considered the realm of the dead. So all
Correct.
these legal fictions are the realm of the dead. Well, the distinct difference is we live in the land of the living, but on paper, they have us all down as dead people.
Right, and how
I mean,
can a decedent, be in a courtroom? So if that's the case, I'm proving your point that if we're all in all caps names, then they are trying to indict or put a felony or misdemeanor or plead or anything onto that dead
legal
trust.
fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it is real easy to walk into that courtroom and say, because the judge will, is this you? And you say, no, I'm a living soul.
Right. And I love the English language. From people around the world, they've called the English language like the junk language because there's so many meanings and all of this kind of thing. Have you ever heard of this sentence before? That doctor cures people. You ever heard that before?
Yeah, I don't know
So
where from.
look up the word doctor. It means to manipulate. And the word cure means to preserve. So when you doctor up a recipe, or you want to cure meat, it's all in the syntax. And if you want to, manipulate the situation, whether it's in court or any contract or whatever, be careful of the words you write down or be careful of the words you speak, because it might not be exactly what you want to present.
And that's part of the propaganda also.
Oh my God, we're dumbed down to like a 5th grade reading level. And it's been proven, a lot of we call it legalese, but a lot of people that are very much smarter than we are live in other countries and they speak very properly for their vernacular. And like I told somebody the other day, like a lot of the people in the United States, we talk on the verb and we write on the verb. Or a lot of people in other countries, they talk on the noun and it makes sense. Where if I were to say, hey, Vex, how are you? That's talking on the verb. It's talking on the how. How are you? Where in Italy or France or something, they say you or how. They want to know the well-being of the noun. And that's how it's spelled. That's how conversationalists, they're very much conversationalists. Or we are very much, I don't know, saying words just so I don't have to talk to you anymore kind of thing. I don't know. But very confusing.
Yeah, I mean, it fits with the rest of the patterns. I mean, everything was to confuse meaning and the truth. Even down to our language. I mean, we have so much slang in this language that if you don't keep up with it, you have no idea what's going on. Which kind of more or less describing myself there.
Well, I had heard the other day that if somebody tells you something 3 times, then usually in like a Black's Law dictionary, there are 3 definitions. And if you say it 3 times, the third one usually is the corporate. Like it's the...
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, there's usually 3 definitions of what a word could mean. And if somebody says something to you 3 times, or you're in court and they say something to you 3 times, they're actually stating to you that it's the third corporate definition of what they're saying.
Interesting. So
3 times, Dorothy?
3
Well,
times.
I'm familiar with
is
the rule of 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just
I've
putting
never
it
put
out
in
there.
that context.
Right.
Yeah. May I?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's what you've just said is. I've never heard of that. But kind of like where Vex sounded like he was going, the rule of 3 is giving notice.
Right.
So if I was to say something 3 times, I've given you notice. Hypothetically here, I haven't said anything 3 times.
Uh-huh.
So if I say something 3 times and you stay silent 3 times, that would take us to one of the maxims of law, one of the very old maxims of law, and that silence is acquiescence. And if you
I would probably be arguing.
Well, fair enough. As would I, or I would just either
Right. If I'm in
the
court and
person
the judge is right, if I'm in court and the judge says something 3 times, or I don't understand something 3 times, then it's the third definition. It's usually the corporate. And since I'm
But how can you prove that?
I can't. That's why I just heard it the other day, and I was dying to tell you this earlier. And then Vex brought up the rule of 3, and I'm like, maybe that has a little correlation to that.
Well, as I know it, the rule of 3 is giving notice. Like you don't pay your bill, they send you a letter.
Oh no, this is more.
They send you another letter. They're telling you 3 times. Or if you read something to somebody to inform them that they need to take action, you're giving them lawful notice 3 times. And after the 3rd time, if they don't respond properly, they default. But as far as repeating something 3 times and then on the 3rd time having it mean something different, you would actually be doing yourself a disservice because you're by your own definition saying something means something different than what you meant the first time. So you're actually not giving notice because you don't know technically if that's what you actually mean is to change the definition. It would mean that you don't know what you're saying. It would make you incompetent technically.
Could be.
Or
could very well be.
Or unless it might have a meaning like as far as secret type of communications, that type of thing, that would make sense.
Well, sure. But...
Well, I mean, the judge and the attorneys are in a group that you're not involved with. So if there's legalese going on, or they know the procedures and all that kind of thing, then I might have something, but I'm not sure. So just putting it out there.
The thing that confused me about what you said was instead of legal, I would have said lawful. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but that's splitting hairs in depending on the situation you're in. You're absolutely right.
Well, actually, it's not splitting hairs. They're legal and lawful are 2 totally different things. And legal is what we are dealing with now, and lawful is what we should be dealing with. Lawful is actually what the founding fathers did, and legal is what has become of our country.
So then I am correct, because it was in our legal system, and I'm talking about the present. So, but yeah, I appreciate the
Okay.
the separation. Absolutely.
Okay. I was just trying to get it straight in my head, because what you said threw me off. I was just like, I've never heard of it that way. But it would make sense to me if it was used as like a secret communication type of thing. That would make sense. And then,
Yep.
I mean, hell, that would actually be a really ingenious way of.
May I?
Yeah, I was drifting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just on this topic of legal versus lawful, spelled F-U-L-L. Legal is in the realm of code, statutes, regulations, rules. Lawful, spelled L-A-W-F-U-L-L, is in reference to the common law and the common law only.
Thank you.
And these legal things only apply to agents, entities, persons, actors, so on and so forth, or the straw man, or the all caps name, so on. So legal does not apply to the flesh and blood. Lawful does.
And you can also add in the distinction between the two is one is corporate, one is of the people.
And when you go into court, it's the legal system,
Right.
which all three of us want it to be the lawful system.
Yeah, which has nothing to do with the other.
Correct.
Right.
Just like if you were to walk into a court and they say, who are you representing, or are you representing yourself? You would say, no, I am myself. I'm not representing anybody.
Because that's the way it
If
was
you were
originally
representing
designed.
if you were representing yourself, that would mean you're there as a the word's escaping me. Basically, as the fiduciary for the account that was summoned. Like I got a traffic ticket one time, and I appeared there, and somebody said my name, or something that sounded very close to my name, and I stood up after the third time, and they look at me and they say, "Are you Hayden?" Yeah, everybody calls me Hayden. I'm Hayden. Yeah. You look at me a little funny. They say, "Okay, are you Hayden? Insert whatever last name you want." I said, "No, I am Hayden." And they say, "Okay, you don't have a last name?" I said, "No, I have a family name." Judge got up, walked out of the courtroom, and walked right back in.
So you won your case because he abandoned his own court.
Well, I didn't really quite close it out, so I'm not going to have them say that I didn't appear and just end up there in a month again anyways. So I stayed. They said, "We're not going to play this game. Are you Hayden, whatever is your last name?" And I said, "I am Hayden, and my family name is," and I told them. And the judge started yelling. He said, "You come here." And I said, "Absolutely not. I will not enter into your jurisdiction." And he said, "You come here now, or I'll have you thrown in jail." And I said, I was feeling pretty gutsy, but I piped up and I said, "Under duress, I'd like the record to reflect that I'm entering the jurisdiction of this court under duress, under threat of imprisonment." And the judge got pink in the face. So I walked up there. Said, okay, this is why you're here, blah, blah, failure to yield on a left-hand turn or something like that. I can't remember exactly what. He said, how do you plea? And I said, I don't understand the nature and the cause of these actions. Why am I here? They said, okay, we're not playing this game. I'm entering in the plea of not guilty for you, blah, blah. I said, I object.
You can't practice law from the bench.
Yeah, there you go. I said just that. I said, it's practicing law from the bench. I said, you cannot do that. And he goes, you don't want me to enter in a plea of not guilty for you? And I said, well, if you're making the judicial determination right here and now that I am not guilty, I'll see you later. There's no cause at all for me to be here. And he goes, no, that's not what I meant. I said, okay, what did you mean? And he goes, you'll be here in 30 days. Got back there in 30 days, and basically the same thing happened and never heard from him again. But I also didn't know much about this. That's kind of what led me down this path of looking into all of this, and that maritime law, if you will. You know, how it got here, how it works, and how we take it away.
Yeah. For me, it was my license plates. I was tired of buying them, and quite frankly, I didn't have enough money to get them. So I fought them. And I won. I was looking up the 18 U.S. codes and using their own codes against them.
Nice. I'm starting to fade, boys. I think I'm going to have to bounce.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. I was expecting to go around 2 hours. I did that plus some. So I want to thank everybody for coming up here. Thank you, Wizard, for hanging out with us and always illuminating having you here.
Wonderful chat. I really super enjoyed it. A lot of keen
Excellent.
minds, a lot of great questions in the chat too.
Thank you very much.
Lots of good conversation, for sure.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Common Sense, for coming up here and hanging with us and imparting your knowledge. It's always great to have you up here. I'd like to thank Cyber Toxin for coming up earlier and Nancy for coming up earlier. Am I forgetting someone? I think I got them covered. I'd like to thank everybody in chat for hanging out and participating. You know I love that. And with that, I will go ahead and yield the floor and tell you all good night and sweet dreams.